Week in review, Monday 18th or Monday, August 18th, 2025. Last week I started back up the affiliate interview series. I decided to have a co-host, and so Nicole Christensen from CrossFit Roots, 17-year affiliate owner, level 4, seminar staff, good friend. She's going to help me co-host these, and we interviewed Ute CrossFit, and it was a great interview. I enjoyed talking to them, learning more about what they're doing in the Salt Lake area and what's going on in the community for the Salt Lake affiliates. I'm thinking about also starting that back up for athletes and doing basically the same thing, having a co-host who, for the men interviews, having a male co-host, and for the women interviews, having a female co-host. So haven't committed to that yet, but thinking about doing that. Going to jump into comments now. At Joey Clubbin, I ran the event on the Midway. It was for 31 Heroes. So last week I talked about events that have been on aircraft carriers. I didn't know who ran them, but he just mentioned he ran one for 31 Heroes on the Midway. At Stronger Every Day 714, hey Dave, I noticed a lot of parents at the game struggling with their little ones. Has your team discussed more family-friendly areas around vendor village? It could be a workout area ran by CrossFit Kids, more vendors for kids apparel, or even exercise gymnastics equipment play areas. I think this is a great opportunity for more ticket sales and new sponsors. Would love to throw some ideas out there. Thanks for all you do. In Madison, for several years, we had a really large build out for the kids. I think not, it varied. Sometimes we had like bounce houses, other times we just had CrossFit Kids activations. So definitely there we played around with different kids areas. I think it's something we should definitely explore and revisit as the venue size permits and allows. In Albany, it might have been a little tough to have a area to pull that off, but noted, and we'll definitely take a look at it. At Brody Newton 10, Dave, the games were awesome. We've been involved in CrossFit since 2010, and this was the best games in a long time. 3 days, 10 events, 30 athletes with no cuts was perfect. He actually said 39 athletes. I think he meant 30. I think that 3 days was good. I do believe I would like to see a 4-day event still. But I do think the 3 days worked out. 10 events. I think 10 events is fine. 10 to 12 or 12 to, I think 12 might be a good spot to end up, especially if you go with 4 days. And then the 30 athletes with no cuts was perfect. Was what he said. I think the 30 athletes with no cuts was good. I think the 30 athletes and the 20 teams was the right number, especially with no cuts. I think if we go back to 40, which I don't know where we're at yet on that, we're kind of looking at it all, I think we need to have cuts. But 30 does allow us to kind of push through and keep everyone in. At Darling Zach, Dave, what do you think about releasing this year's games workouts as a CrossFit class-friendly version? Break it down to 1 week of programming, and the community can see just how human we are. I'm pretty sure Cap programmed a number of them into the week. But yeah, they're super straightforward. A majority of them are super straightforward and would be easy to put in as class programming and just scale as needed or modify as needed. At Photo Willem Zig, I love the new marketing direction for CrossFit. Fuck the quick fix, but he used a little asterisk where the U is. At Hey Social, I just saw a video of Guy doing max height box jumps with his dog. Have you ever done a max height box jump at the games? Maybe couple that with a running Isabel type of workout. Just a thought. So I think a max height box jump is something really cool that should be tested. I don't know if it should be tested at the games, which leads me to this concept I was playing with a week ago. And the working title is Not the CrossFit Games. And I'm thinking about an event or a concept that is out of season, possibly in November or December, where you bring the top athletes in, and it's not the CrossFit Games. And what that means is we can do a lot of fun stuff and cool stuff and test something like a max height box jump, test a softball throw or a javelin throw, test a broad jump, test a 40, test, a bunch of other kind of non-traditional movement things or physical thing, a max L sit hold, something like that even. Things that you typically, even though we've done something like that at the games years ago, L sit hold, things that you typically wouldn't see in the games, but are still cool things to do with this cohort of individuals, with the fittest alive. And it wouldn't be for the title of the fittest alive. It'd be just kind of like an expedition where the top athletes are being tested in things that we wouldn't do at the games. So the not CrossFit games, playing around with that, thinking about how I'd pull that off, thinking about who I'd invite, meaning like, would it be the top 10? Would it be the top 20? Would it be top 5? And thinking about no fans, just kind of made for TV. So I've been playing around with that concept. I think it'd be really fun. It'd be really cool. And yes, max height box jump could be included. At Drake Steven 3447, Albany is my first games, and although the games were amazing, I'll definitely be going every year I can from here on out. With the future in mind, have you thought about going to a venue with multiple buildings and mandating the age group to be at the same place at the games at the same time, but ran by the people running it this year? I think it'd bring more of a festival, Woodstock vibe back to the games like it's meant to be. Thanks. Yeah, definitely thinking about that. Definitely considering what it would look like. The thing here's one of the reasons why. Well, two reasons why we broke the age groups away. The ability to move from a venue like Madison, or the ability to find new locations to go when we had everything together, was really tough because the infrastructure needed to house everything and run everything was like the Madison venue, and even the build out. I mean, I think people who went there realize this, but most people don't. That outdoor stadium we built from scratch. We took a parking lot. We actually grinded down we leveled out the parking lot a little so the floor was level. Then we brought in the green matting. Then we brought in all the bleachers. So that was just a parking lot, and we built that from scratch. Then there was the stadium. Then there was hundreds of thousands of feet where the vendor village was. Then there was hundreds of thousands of feet where the athletes were. It was like, especially if we were going to build that outdoor venue, an ideal footprint for doing everything that we did there. The thing is, that's not scalable, or you can't replicate that across the country, or eventually when we want to take it globally across the world. So one of the main reasons we broke the age groups away from the individuals and teams was to give us the ability to move the games and to go to new venues and new locations, and specifically at some point internationally, with being able to open up way more venue options. And I think it did that for sure. Like, there's a lot more places we can go now because our infrastructure needs are definitely less. Also, the other thing is, at that point we were running it all, and that was a massive week for our teams and our infrastructure. And actually, it turns out to be like a couple weeks because we had to come in so much earlier to conduct all of that. But this notion of what you suggest, basically bringing it to the same city, letting the, in this case, Legends, who runs it now, run it concurrently or nearby, or not concurrently, but maybe a couple days before. Yeah, definitely worth exploring. And I think, and I'll say this, we are exploring and taking a look at. Doesn't mean it's going to happen next year, but we're considering what that would look like for sure. Good idea. At Andrew Calvert 437, yo Dave, put your audio in mono next time you're using a stereo mic. Yeah, I think the audio is all messed up. I think it's good now though. I just did a little test 30-second video prior to this. If it's not, tell me again. At Felicia Martinez 9361, I really hope the new CrossFit owners bring back the festival vibes of the games. As an attendee this year and last year, it hasn't been the same experience at all. Please bring back the festival vibes and on-site camping. At Alex P 2040, awesome show for 2026. You plan on making the full version of the games happen again? Yes, so a lot of people are saying the same thing. Age groups and adaptives together, bring the festival atmosphere, give everybody the opportunity to be on the same floor, and it's also particularly good for the vendors present. Being in Madison myself in 2023 and comparing the pros and cons of each version, my guess in the community is that the community would prefer everyone in the same games. We did this affiliate gathering, affiliate summit before the games this year. It was a 2 day. Basically had subject matter experts, had presenters, and that was really popular. We'll definitely be bringing that back next year. So pieces like that, and then adding some other elements, I think are for sure. And next year's the 20th games. So with that, it's a special year. It's the 20th edition of the CrossFit Games, and doing something, trying to capture that would be cool. At Sam Valenzuela, Dave, have you ever hosted a bachelor party at the ranch? It's my 7-year anniversary, but never had a bachelor party. Meet some good friends through my local affiliate and like to work out, shoot guns, eat bread with TDC olive oil. We've never had a bachelor party at the games. If you're interested, hit me up. We'll see what we can work out. At Jonas NCF, any news on the level 4? When can we expect it to be up and running again? Are you coming to Europe at the time or starting in the US? Thanks for all the great work you do and a brilliant games. So we are working currently on the level 4 and hope to launch it maybe by October or late October. And it's going to be, we're going to basically remove the in-person element to make it more scalable. And it's going to be one-on-one engagement and more an evaluation of where you are rather than a test of where you are. And the evaluation comes with coaching to make you better. So one of the things I've talked about with the level 4 is, instead of us just rating you and saying pass or fail, we're gonna work with you as a coach and where you're at, and make you a better coach. So how that works and how that functions, more to follow on that. But it's definitely going to be available to everyone globally with this new format. At Edward Payne 8962, did you ever get sick of Sevan being around you all day? Here's the deal. So he knows really well, like, how much space to give me and how not to talk to me and when not to talk to me. Even though he hosts a podcast and all he does is talk all day long, like, he's rarely engaging with me or pestering me or talking. Like, when you look at his team, like, I could never do that with Souza. Like, Souza's just always talking and always has something to say. Sevan gets and understands me, at least, to where he can just, like, hey, I'm not going to talk to the guy right now. Hey, I'm going to stand 5-10 feet away. And so half the time I don't even realize he's following me around. And I actually was blown away. He had mentioned to me before the game started, he's like, hey, I'm just going to follow you around and do a behind the scenes on you. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, right. Yeah, sure. You're going to take the time and do that. On day 1 of the games, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm following you around. I'm like, all right. And then, you know, he did his thing where he stays around. And I was really surprised that he stayed with me the entire day. And then on day 2, you know, I wasn't surprised anymore. I'm like, all right, he's going to do it. And so he's stuck around me for the 3 days. And like I said, I don't get sick of it because he gives me a lot of space, doesn't talk to me most of the time, knows when to talk to me, rarely talks to me unless I engage him. And he's a friend, so when I do want to talk or I do want to engage, he's there to engage with. So it was fine. It worked out. At the real Kevin 87, don't you have the fluffy duck guy blocked on Instagram? Will the age group have good media coverage in the live stream? Yes, they'll have a late live stream, and I assume it's going to be good media coverage. I think it will be good media coverage. I don't know if I have the fluffy duck guy. I don't keep tabs on who I block. I'm telling you, I've said this multiple times. Like, I'll just block people, and like, I'm not like making a note of, oh, fluffy duck, I'm blocking you, and I'm not going to forget this. So if I did, I blocked him a really long time ago. And let me say this, I haven't in recent times blocked that many because I actually I don't spend a lot of time on that account. I should get better with it, but so I don't know. At Tyro, Dave, because of the just Tyro, at Tyro, Tryoe. Dave, because of the pegboard debacle, it doesn't feel like the fittest male was crowned, not pointing fingers, as the pegboard problem doesn't seem to have been foreseeable, but it seems as though Gerard or Hatfield would actually be the fittest if their pegboards weren't slick. Tia was doing legless pegboards so her feet wouldn't slip, so it doesn't make sense that any mismanaged rest time wouldn't be the issue. The event didn't end up testing what it was intended to, and I'm assuming all 10 of the events are necessary in determining the fittest on Earth. It's not your nature to put that in an event that doesn't matter. Did you see Do you see that it should be Gerard, Hopper, Hatfield, Hopper in that order? Other than that, great games. I disagree with you, clearly. And then so this went on in the comments. A bunch of people went back and forth with this guy, and he stayed with his argument or with his position. Dave, because of the Pegboard debacle, is how he phrased it. So I don't think it was a debacle, and I think there was way more going on than people are just. And let me say this about this game of had that event. If your favorites, if Hatfield and if Gerard would have done better at that event, they would have placed higher. That can be played every single event through multiple times throughout the weekend, and that can be played for Hopper. If Hopper at the last event wouldn't have missed those few reps, then all of what you're talking about would be wiped out. And so like that game of focusing on one moment in one event and going down that rabbit hole, I think is unfair oftentimes, because for every athlete, or just creating this leaderboard where that's the only thing you're changing, you could do the same thing for Hopper and any athlete, and they're multiple positions up the leaderboard. I said this about Danielle Brandon on Sevan's podcast. She got a 0. She did 9 events, basically. She did the equivalent of 9 events, and she finished 4th. What I mean by that is she got a 0 on the back squat. Imagine if she would have got 20, 30, 40, I don't know what the numbers are. I haven't looked at the leaderboard. But if she'd have finished mid-pack, so she would have been probably 3rd or 2nd easily. So that game goes in a lot of directions when you play. Like, you just can't play it in one way. To the pegboard, I looked at some of the footage of Tia climbing, and I looked at some of the footage of Lydia Fish climbing, and they were climbing on some of the coverage at the same time, and both their feet were slipping. And Lydia, I think, ended up doing really well. I think she won that heat. Tia's were maybe slipping a little more. Tia also chalked her feet up, and she was also descending straight-armed. With no legs. So Lydia was descending with her legs. So here's the deal. I think with this whole argument, there's a ton of variability in ability. I've talked about that. In some of the rest, what I mean by ability, people have this discussion around the pegboard and these arguments, almost assuming like everybody is as good of a pegboarder as they are a CrossFitter, and that might not necessarily be true in all of these cases. And one reason why I say that, a standard pegboard that you buy from Rogue has 10. So when they have holes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, let me say this: 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. A pegboard that you buy from Rogue has 10 holes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. This pegboard has 15 holes. So this pegboard on one side, 15 on one side, 15 on the other. So it's basically a third longer. So it's a much higher pegboard. This pegboard also is plexiglass. Yes. So the plexiglass is a thing. And why I say that is this notion of this person's a really good pegboarder, or this person should have done that on this workout. When you're doing a 10-hole pegboard in your gym against a concrete wall or a wall with just a standard wall, the purchase there is much different than this wall where it's 15 holes long, so much higher, and you have the plexiglass. And so none of these athletes, not even Tia, none of these athletes have this wall to train with. And these are the same exact walls that have been used every year in the CrossFit Games. And the only one that's up is on the other side of this wall. The only one that's up outside of Rogue is on the other side of this wall. So there is an unknown aspect, even if you practice pegboards, even if you train on pegboards, that is true to this. And there is some adaptability that comes with that, or some modification of how you train on it, or how you approach it and how you tackle it. So I think it's not as simple as saying they were it's all the pegboard. I think there's a lot of other factors. I think there is also, you could look at shoes. I would love to see an analysis of what shoes people were wearing, and maybe the shoes certain athletes wore were a little they were slicker than others. And even in the video I watched with Tia and Lydia, Chase or Adrian actually comment on Tia was chalking the bottom of her shoes. I really think that's probably not a good idea. And then this notion of chalk getting on the wall, I could see that happening for sure, and I believe that happened. But this idea that there would be just this consistent sheen of chalk across the whole thing that made it uniformly slick, I'm also not buying. So I think there were a lot of variables to it. I think some people adapted really well. I think others may have not. I also think just because you do good on pegboards in your gym doesn't necessarily translate to you're going to be good on this pegboard here. So, and then I even, on one of the videos with Tia, I think on round 2, so 4-3, on her 3, she did the 2 with her feet, and then the third climb, she just went straight strict from like the beginning up, didn't even really try to engage her feet, closer to the top. And so right there I would say, okay, that's probably not an advisable technique. So this notion that the pegboard event was a debacle, I think it was maybe potentially the truest CrossFit workout of the games. And what I mean by that is in the unknown and unknowable aspect that was kind of, I don't want to say missing, but not there. That, you know, the new equipment, the new things, the different things. There are a lot of athletes in that field who, for the first time ever doing an event with that piece of equipment, was in that event. And so it's different. There's things around it in terms of the height, in terms of the plexiglass that I think, and in terms of the volume, like, yeah, 4-3-2-1 was a lot of climb. It's a lot of climbs, and it's a lot of tall climbs. I saw Sprague's story yesterday, and he did a workout that his coach programmed for him, and it was like wall balls, 30, 20, 10 maybe, with a heavy wall ball, and pegboard, 4-3-2-1. So they use the same rep scheme, 4-3-2-1. And then I looked at the pegboard, and in his gym, he was going up it in like 2. Maybe it definitely wasn't 3, but he was going up it like that. And then I counted the holes on that pegboard, and like I said earlier, it was 10 relative to our 15, but with the same rep count. So, Tyro, I do not think the pegboard was a debacle. I think it is exactly what it is. It's a test at the CrossFit Games, and it threw a loop. It threw some people for a loop. It threw a variable in there that changed things up, and it's all part of the test. And at the end of the day, Tia still won, and Jason Hopper won, and he deserves it. Jason Hopper dominated these games. And so, like, how he performed, he did great. And he had the red jersey for a majority of the weekend. So had Ricky done better on that, maybe Ricky would have won. And had Jason done better on the snatch workout or the 2 triplets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you can play that game all day long, but I think it's a disservice to Jason to question his win. All right, that's it. That's the week in review. Leave your thoughts in the comments or questions in the comments, and I'll address them next week. Thanks. Bye.